Hi, Susan Francis here. I'm sorry I'm a couple of minutes late today. Was meant to be going live at 1 o'clock and I had a little technical hitch with my phone, but I'm over here now, so I'll give a couple of minutes for the notifications to go out and for people to come and join me. But I'm about to go talk about my top tip for taking back your power, and this is part 3 of my 7-part live stream series, which is every Monday at 1 o'clock. So I'm apologies for being a couple of minutes late today. I think it's just about 5 past. But during this live stream series, you're going to discover exactly how to turn difficult relationships into the best thing that ever happened. I'm just going to adjust my camera angle a little bit. So yeah, and today I'm going to be talking about my top tip for taking back your power. If you've got any questions or anything, please pop them in the comments box and I'll do my best to answer them. It's great seeing people over here. So let's just check. I'm just checking that it's actually showing up live on my other screen, because I can't always see what's going on my phone whilst I'm doing the live stream. Let's have a look and see what's... Yep, it seems to be there. It's got a little delay on it, but so I'll just give a few seconds to see if people are coming along, and to check that it's going up in notifications. Where are we? Right, okay, so yes, so today is video 3 in my live stream series. During this live stream series, you'll discover how to turn difficult relationships into the best thing that's ever happened. And today I'm going to be talking about my top tip for taking back your power. So welcome everybody. Again, I'm Susan Francis and I work with high-performing professional women who are experiencing different difficult relationship dynamics, whether that's with family, friends, a partner or their children, and it's impacting their business, their goals, their dreams or their job. And to give you an idea of the range of results that I get for my clients, one of my clients has been running her own business, and her family thought that her business wasn't worthy. She's been living in the shadow of her family's judgment and shrinking to fit their ideals, and she totally lost faith in herself and who she was and what she was doing, and she just started to completely burn out. Since we've been working together, she now has a total belief and trust in herself and a passion for what she's doing, and because she's feeling that passion, her income's increased and she's living a much far happier lifestyle. Another example is a lady that I've been working with she was really successful in her business, but she'd evolved so much as a woman and as a person while she's been creating her business, and everything that she's learned about herself and that whole journey that you go on when you're starting a business, when you're working in a business, you become a different woman through that process. And that had really affected her relationship and the dynamics that were going on between herself and her husband. And through working together, she took the decision to leave her husband. But by the work that we were doing, she managed to move through the divorce unscathed. And she's now in a relationship with somebody who is her equal, and she's really living life in tune with who she wants to be. And the last time I spoke to her, she told me that this was the best thing. It turned out to be the best thing that had ever happened to her. And that's one of my reasons behind this live stream series, because I want to help people to discover how they can turn difficult relationships and the issues that they're having into the best thing that's ever happened. So please do comment, share this video. If you tag anybody else that you think that it might be helpful for, hit the follow button on my page and subscribe. I think at the end of the video you can hit subscribe, and that will let you know of any notifications when I'm live. This is actually part 3 of a live stream series that I've been doing. So if you've missed the first 2, go back down on my page. You can find the videos are all posted there. And you can also come and join me over in my group called It's Time to Be You. So just if you click on over to there, I'll put a link in there. I think there is a link, but if not, I'll make sure there's one in my page so you can click and join over for that as well. So let's have a look. So my top tip for taking back your power. Now that's this week, that's talking about the blame game and blaming people, circumstances and things for not being able to do or be who you really want to be, or for just the everyday things, the general things that go wrong in your life and the negative situations that you might find yourself in, and getting caught up in blaming other people for that. And the problem with this is the fact that, you know, there are lots of different ways that we play the blame game, and some of them are so simple and subtle, it's almost impossible to see what we're doing, and it can really sort of take some self-reflection to actually see that we're doing that. And that could be around blaming other people for the negative situations you're in, blaming your job, blaming it could be your boss, it could be your partner, it could be your mother, it could be your neighbour. They're all, it's looking at all of those situations where we blame other people as though they're all responsible for the problems that we're having. You know, you go outside and you slip on some leaves, and it's rather than it accepting that it's about the fact that you might have not been paying attention to where you were walking, it's somebody hasn't swept up, it's somebody else's fault for not sweeping up the leaves. It's tiny little things like that, to blaming other people for your negative experiences with work, or negative experiences within your relationships, and putting the blame on other people. And it's the stories that we tell ourselves, and we automatically get caught up in a story and keep replaying that story and getting stuck within those stories, that stops us from taking responsibility. This research shows that there are actually reasons why people play blame game. So I'm going to talk about those now, because I think it's really, and this isn't about pointing the finger or being judgmental. It's about just kind of highlighting what they are, so that you can perhaps recognise where you might do that in different situations. And we do all do this. We're all guilty of this at times. You know, I'm not sort of sitting here and saying, right, okay, these are the reasons why you play the blame game, and you're the only people that do it, and I don't. I've done it myself many a time, and I catch myself doing it still on a regular basis, and it's about making sure, and it's about checking yourself with those. So, reasons why people play the blame game. The first one is because it's a great defence mechanism. It's a real good way, whether we call it projection or denial or blame, it's a way of helping you to preserve your sense of self-esteem and of who you are, and feeling kind of safe in the knowledge of who you are by pointing the finger at other people. And it helps you to avoid any awareness of your own flaws or failings. You can completely ignore all of those, because you can, as a defense mechanism, you can just push it out on other people and sort of, find, okay, it's the boss's fault, or it's my partner's fault, it's the neighbour's fault, it's my mum's fault, it's my sister's fault. It's somebody else's fault why you're in the situation, and we do that as a natural, it's a defense mechanism. We don't it's a way of avoiding looking at yourself and looking at where you might actually be at fault somewhere. So that's one of the reasons we play the blame game, because it is absolutely an excellent way to defend yourself. Talking about defence, another way of using it is blame is a fantastic, it's a tool that we use when we go into attack mode. It's our way of, if we feel hurt or we feel as though we've been put upon, or any kind of injustice to ourselves, going into attack mode by using blame is a way of us defending that. So we take, you've got the defence mechanism of not seeing where there's any involvement from yourself and putting that on other people, and also then coming back from that, attacking other people, and let's be honest, it's wanting to hurt other people in response to the fact that you feel that you've been hurt. So we can use, blaming them and finding reasons why it's their fault is an excellent way of using that as a tool and to build yourself up and put yourself in that in the frame of mind for attack, to attack and to fight back. Another way that we use blame is as a form of judgment. We're not very good at figuring out people's behaviour, or finding out looking at the causes of people's behaviour and why people may behave in certain ways, or even looking at our own behaviour. So it's an easy way to fall quickly into judgment on people by blaming them, trying to work, instead of trying to work out why people are acting in certain ways, is by, it's a good way of looking and saying, well, they're behaving like that because of, and then blaming them for particular situations, for negative feelings, for because they want to hurt, because they want to get back at somebody, because they don't want to accept responsibility themselves. And in that respect, we're also really good at saying that or putting that on other people, but not actually looking back and seeing where that's equal for ourselves as well. It's very easy for us to say, okay, that person wants to hurt me and they're just behaving like this because they want to get back at me because they're feeling put upon about something else and they're taking it out on me, and actually not looking at, well, where might you be doing that yourself as well? So it's a very quick way of being in judgment over other people and releasing ourselves and ignoring the fact that we might be wanting to perhaps judge or look at ourselves. And it's far easier to blame someone else rather than to accept responsibility. There's a lot less effort involved in recognising, it takes a lot of effort to recognise your own contribution in a situation, and it's a lot less effort than what it is, to blame other people for it, because taking a look and recognising your own contributions to a bad situation is accepting the fact that you might be at fault somewhere, and then that means that you might have to change something. So that takes a lot of effort, that takes a lot of responsibility, it takes self-reflection, and that can feel too hard to do. So when we sometimes we can find ourselves in situations where we maybe start to see that we might have had something to do with it, and then immediately find an excuse where we can turn that on to somebody else and blame somebody else for that instead. Because it's easier to do that. It's it takes a lot to be able to look at yourself in the mirror, if you like, and sort of say, actually, that's some of that was down to me. It's not totally about sort of saying, oh, that's nobody else's fault, it's only my fault. But it's that accepting your responsibility in situations, and that can be really hard to do. So it's far easier to blame other people than to do that. So that's one of the other reasons why it's easier for us to go into blaming other people. And another reason is, plain and simply, people lie. And it's pretty easy to just lie about something and blame someone else, even if you can see that you're at fault, and create a story or a reason and put the blame on other people, especially if that person's not around, they're not in a position where they can defend themselves or come back with the truth, or it could be just easier to blame someone else who's not there rather than take responsibility for yourself. And whether that's down to something simple like somebody spilt something and you kind of walk away and you go, let someone else take the blame for that, or whether it's it's about lying about a situation that's happened and kind of putting the blame on somebody else that isn't able to come back and say that and say how it really is. And as a defence mechanism, people do lie, and it's pretty easy to just do that. So, and as I said, me pointing out that these reasons why people play the blame game isn't about pointing the finger and saying, oh, you tell lies, or it's just about looking at some of the different reasons why people play the blame game, so that you can perhaps see where you might be doing it, in order to be able to look at that and to be able to help make some change around that. Let me just have a look. I'm just having a quick look here to see if there's any comments at the moment. Let's have a look. No, so let's. So the next stage in that. So what's the problem with that? It stops you seeing where you can make change. It stops you taking responsibility or accepting situations so that you can deal with them and move on. And when I say accepting situations, when we're constantly putting the blame on somebody else, then that creates a story that can keep going around in our heads. And it stops us from actually accepting things and dealing with them and being able to let go of them and move on. On the flip side, if you're always blaming yourself for things, then that can create a pattern of feeling like a failure and feeling like you can't do anything right. Sometimes we can get into a habit of of just always thinking, oh, here we go again, I'm never getting anything right, I can't do this properly, I'm always making the same mistakes, why don't I ever learn from this? And that can actually be putting you in a really negative and weak position as well. And when you're always blaming yourself, what that actually also means is when you do have successes, you do have things that go great, people that tend to blame themselves for everything will tend to see any successes as being something that's external, or put it down to fate or luck or other reasons why that's been successful, and not accept that for themselves and take that success on board for themselves as something that they've been successful at and something that they've achieved. Other things, when you're blaming, either way, whether you're blaming others or you're constantly putting yourself down, you're actually always putting yourself into a position of lack, a position of negativity, a position of judgment, and a position where you're going to keep repeating patterns. You're going to keep playing out negative stuff in your head, whether that's negative stories that you play out, and you're going to keep repeating patterns and making excuses for not doing your best, which means you're giving up your power in any situation. So that's why today is about, my top tip for taking back power. And it is about looking at where you are giving up your power as a person, where you are giving up your ability to take responsibility and your ability to make change by getting caught up in the blame game and blaming others or situations or people, things, time, other things for your situation. And just to give you a little example of that, this weekend I was on a retreat where there was a lot of energetic movement involved, and we were doing a lot of exercises where we had to really, really push ourselves, and we were told that at the point when our bodies felt the most stress was when the psychological stress would arise, as in the story that kicks in and starts to play out in your head to give you all the reasons why you shouldn't be doing this, or why you should stop with the physical activity. And the whole point of that physical activity and putting your body into physical stress was to bring to surface what the psychological story was going to be that comes up to give you an excuse to pull out and to not push yourself and to not take yourself further. And I found that for myself, I had a story that I realised had played out for years. In fact, from very small childhood, because it's to do with the fact that I was born with a problem with my hip and had physical and so throughout the years I've had different physical problems, but it made me realise that I'd always used my body as an excuse not to really push myself in certain situations. It was my get out clause, if you like, for not really pushing myself with physical activity, whether that be going to the gym or going for long walks, or even back at school with not taking part in sporting things and that sort of thing. And I realised that I'd been using that all of my life as an excuse to not push myself and to put myself in a position of weakness. And actually, by putting myself in a position of weakness, even whether it was thinking of that as my body physical weakness, put me on the back foot and put me in a position of weakness in lots and lots of other situations, because the story of being weaker in some way had played out. And so even just doing that at the weekend really helped me to see again, even though I've dealt with a lot of stuff and I've overcome a lot of stuff, that actually here's something else that you need to look at. Here's something else that you need to see where you're allowing yourself to give away your personal power as to who you are. So that was really great for me, and I did totally push myself and made sure that I took myself further forward. And I'm sure some of you that go to the gym might recognise that when you're actually doing the exercise. I mean, I know before times when I've done things like a spin class, you have to really, really push yourself. When you notice the stories, the psychological stuff that comes up, that's trying to say to you, let's not do, this is a reason to not do this. This is a reason to give up. And this is a reason, it's kind of like ego stories playing out. It's giving you a reason to give up, walk away, not push yourself, not do your best, and to not, show your own power and be the best you can be in any situation. So you know, when we start to look at this, at the different ways that we use the blame game, and when you start to own up to your roles in whether in bad situations or in, you know, in all different types of experiences, and you know, and I've sort of touched on quite a few different experiences that you could have. You know, say it could be at work, it could be within your job, could be within your business, could be, you know, with family, with your sister, your mother, your partner, anything. When you start to own up to your roles in those situations, it can help you grow from those experiences, and ultimately it can help you to achieve more fulfilling relationships, more fulfilling relationship with yourself, more fulfilling relationships with other people. Eckhart Tolle said that whenever something negative happens to you, there's a deep lesson concealed within it. And I totally believe that we're here to learn lessons. And when we learn that lesson, we move on to the next. And if we fail to learn the lesson, we keep finding opportunities and situations to keep learning until we do. And that goes back to what you know, I left my first marriage and got caught up in blaming my ex for my situation and everything that had happened during the relationship, and my situation for when I come out of the relationship, for my debts, for where I was living, for how I was feeling. And at the time, I remember having a real fear of repeating the patterns of that relationship and getting caught up in perhaps another relationship that might have led to the same thing. I just had this kind of, I don't know, knowing, intuition, something that said to me that I needed to take a long, hard look at myself and work and learn the lessons that I needed to learn from that situation and from that relationship, so that I could, you know, let go of some of the things that had happened and find more acceptance for it, but also so that I could make sure that my life moving forward was better, was different, and that I had back my power within those situations, within my life, and that I was able to be and do the person that I really knew that I wanted to be, the one that I knew that was in there all along. But through, you know, blaming situations and not recognising my power in those situations, not recognising my ability to do something about it, had held me back before. So here's my tips around taking back your power, and that is to first of all, make a conscious decision that you're going to leave the blame game behind. And to do that, it's about starting to be the observer for your own behaviour, the self-talk, the things that you say to yourself, the reasons that you come up with as to why things are somebody else's fault, or why a situation is, why you don't have any ability to do something in a situation. And by being the observer, a good way to do that, you may have already observed something about yourself in some of the things I've spoken about already, like the reasons why we blame people. Or you might be sort of have situations that are coming up and you think, oh yeah, where am I responsible? Where can I look and see where I'm responsible in that? But a good way to start is by just being an observer. Take a general day, take today, and look, where in your day are you blaming others? And I bet you surprise yourself about how often you do it. Tiny little things. Something's not gone right. You've not got to work on time, or you're late for an appointment. Is that because you're late? Did you take the right amount? Did you leave in the right amount of time? Or are you blaming somebody else? Or are you blaming the bus driver that sat there and you couldn't get past him, or whatever it might be? Look first. Sometimes it's looking at those tiny little things in your general day, first of all, and being the observer of that, being the observer of your behaviour and the talk and the way that you're blaming situations, and then look at take that further and look into situations in your relationships and in the way and in your interaction with other people, and take a look at the thing that's really challenging you the most in your relationship at the moment, and start to be the observer about where you might be placing blame on others. And I think you're going to be surprised, and you're going to surprise yourself about how often you do it. And have a look at some of those reasons why you might be doing it. Are you using it as a defence mechanism? Are you using it to avoid seeing where you might be at fault in a situation? Are you using it to judge somebody else? The next step is from that is, once you start to observe that, is to accept that there might be a lesson for you in these situations and look for it. Is it a recurring lesson? Is it a pattern? Is it something that happens in, is it something that's happened in all of your personal, all of your relationships? Is it something that keeps happening with your family? Is it something that keeps playing out when you're at work? Is it something that, have you found that you've done one job and you got into negative situations with your boss and you left that job, and then you found yourself, actually the next job that you've had, you've found that you're having the same sort of struggles with people at work. Just look for the patterns, and then look for the lesson. What is it in there that you need to learn? Is it something around boundaries? Is it something around how you communicating with people? Is it, look for what the lesson is for you. Because if you don't learn the lesson, you're going to keep, the situation will keep finding a way, the lesson will keep finding a way to come back to you. So admit that and then from that, accepting that there may be a lesson for you to learn, look at it. Is it a recurring pattern? Then admit that you may have helped to create the situation. Because if there's a lesson for you, then in some way you've helped to create that situation to bring the lesson back again. So admit, consider the possibility that you may have helped to create that situation and look for where that is. So review that then. What could you have done differently? What might you do differently in the future? And then let go of your attachment to the problem. What can benefit you? We can benefit with these attachments because they become excuses for not doing something else. If you're blaming a situation or blaming somebody for not being able to do something, we can benefit by by staying in that place. Because actually, if you let go of it, it might mean that you've got to do something. It might mean that it could mean you've got to make a change. It could mean you've got to face something that you're really fearing. And actually, by being caught up in the blame game around it, you can avoid facing your fear. So let go of your attachment to the problem. Letting go gives. Letting go of it will give the possibility then for growth. It will create the space. If you let go of the issue, let go of the problem, because you've reviewed it and you've recognised the lesson in it. When you let go of it, it then creates the space for growth. It creates the space for you to make positive change. Dropping the blame game will allow you to let go and move on. So have a little look back over where in your day. Just be the observer first of all. This isn't about being really harsh with yourself. It's about gently observing exactly what's going on, exactly where you might be blaming other people, what situations might be reoccurring for you that you can look and see the patterns, and therefore the lesson that you're calling in each time in these situations. For me, by recognising where I was blaming my ex for everything within our relationship and the situation, and for my situation after that, by recognising my part, seeing the lessons that I needed to learn, that allowed me to let go of that, and it's allowed me now to be in a loving, equal and relaxing relationship. So it's allowed me to be in that space because I've been able to let go of the blame and see where I accept responsibility for where I got caught in different situations, and also to see where I had the ability to change and to be able to let go of that. So remember, if there is a problem and you're playing the blame game, there's always a lesson to be learned. Look for the lesson. Drop the blame and look for the lesson. And it is about calling it out and saying to yourself, actually, yeah, there is a lesson here for me and I'm willing to learn it, and I'm going to stop the blame game. Because once you start to look for the lesson, you have to drop the blame game. Okay, so hopefully that has helped some people. Thanks ever so much for watching. Next week I'm going to be talking about what you need to have a happier, healthier outlook on all relationships. So please share this video if you think it's going to be helpful to anybody. Add any comments down below. Make sure you sign up or click subscribe at the end of the video so that you get notifications of the next time that I'm live. Come over and join me in my It's Time to Be You Facebook group. And if any of what I've said to you today resonates with you and you'd like to have further conversation with me about that and like to look at how I might be able to help you, then please do send me a private message, and I'll be happy to set up some time to talk with you about it. Yeah, go over and join the group, make any comments, and I will look forward to seeing you again next Monday at 1 o'clock. Thanks ever so much for watching.